Hello, welcome to this one. In this video, we're going to go over the DC4 machine on Proving Grounds Play. So as usual, starting with our Nmap scans. In this one, we're scanning all ports for this machine. 2 ports are present, so it's very quickly determined that it's most likely going to be a web exploit. Obviously, we're not going to assume that. Very well might be a vulnerable SSH version, but generally, especially with more intermediate box things like that, it's not just going to be an exploit straight in, things like that. So we'll check it anyway. We'll see what version. This version's, I don't believe it's vulnerable to anything or to any sort of RC things like that. It'll probably have some things in there, but nothing that's going to give us immediate access to the machine. So the only other thing left is to obviously go and scope out the web app. Right away when we are on the web app, we go straight in here. The first thing I'll always look for is I'll just put in some random characters. It's really easy. Test for SQL injection, things like that. Just have a quick look. Nothing came up on my initial attempt with this box. So quickly I was just sort of just trying def combinations like admin, things like that. And as you can see, we're not getting any sort of response here. If we look in if we get burp suite open, I'm just going to do it in the browser here, but if we had this open in burp, we would see that these responses are just going to give us a redirect. So it's most likely when we do actually get a successful login attempt, it's most likely going to redirect us to another page, which is the key thing to note. It's not just going to be a direct R200 OK. We are probably going to have to look for something other than a HTTP response code. It's just something to note. So what we're doing here is we're going to use Hydra to brute force the HTTP admin panel. So all we're saying is that Hydra to use the username admin. We're going to be using a password list, the basic one, RockU, on this server here, and we're doing it to the login.php file. Reason being, this is index.php, but this form does submit to login.php, so that's where we'll be sending the request to. We're going to be using the username admin, so this parameter is pretty redundant, and we're going to be putting in the passwords from the word list over there. And we're just saying we want it to be verbose, and we're just going to skip any other previous iterations, so we don't have a 10-second delay. This little end bit here, this success, so I had to play around with this. It wasn't just a straight off get it working. As I said before, because we can't rely on a HTTP response code, whether it fails or whether it succeeds, it is probably going to go to a 302. It's going to redirect us. So instead, I just put in a generic sort of log out. If we're on a login page, it's probably going to tell us to log out. And we also know that there is a logout.php. There we go, from FUF. So it's a bit of a lucky guess, but this did happen to work. So I'll let this run and I'll come back once it's finished. So we're back pretty quickly. We get a response from it, and we can see that admin's password is happy. So we got lucky with that. And now we will try and log in with his credentials. Bit weird on this sometimes. It doesn't appear to work the first time a lot of the time, but it will log us in. Here we go. So this is the command.php file that we saw on FUF. Now, if we have a quick look here, we can see that there is some sort of command execution going on. And right away, obviously, as you'll do, we'll inspect the HTML and see if it's sending it from the client. And it just so happens it is. So really quickly, we will see if we can get some sort of command execution. So if we run this now, we should get whatever user we're running as instead of listener directory. And lo and behold, we are running as www.data. So now what we will do is we will transfer a file over. So quickly as well, what we'll do is we'll see, we can see we're in the the HTML directory. We can assume that anyway. So what we'll do now is we'll see if we can create a file. There we go, commands run. As you can see, we're going to assume we don't have permissions to create a file in here. And we don't. So what we'll do instead, we'll create another location. So what we can do is use a Python server, MSF Venom, and wget to transfer this binary over. So what we will do is we will create a reverse shell as a binary, and then we'll send it over from a Python server. So I'll go ahead and create this now. As you can see, the only thing we're doing here, not changing this because this is the one I just used earlier, my IP address and the port we want to use. Obviously, things to be mindful of if we're doing this on more secure systems. Probably don't want to be doing some arbitrary port. Want to be trying to do stuff that's open in the box at port 80 or SSH, things like that. Just things to be aware of. But obviously, these machines don't really matter. So then what we will do is we'll start our Python web server. I'm going to assume this is my IP address. Again, we'll soon find out. And then what we'll do is we will wget that across the machine. There we go. Slash, I believe it's shell.elf. Double check. Yeah, it was shell.elf. We're going to put that to the temp directory. We do have write access. So we'll just change this command here. There we go. Confirm our web server started, and now when we run it, we should get there we go. We'll just verify it has done this. So we'll just see if it's in the temp directory. As you can see, our shell is in there. Another thing we need to do as well, we need to make sure the binary is executable. So we'll just change the permissions on that. So temp / shell.elf. There we go. Right, so now we've made it executable, so we'll start a listener on this machine. And we will connect temp / shell.elf. There we go. So we're on the machine. We've got a reverse shell as www data. We haven't got a interactive shell, so we'll just get a use a nice little cheat sheet to get a TTY shell. There we go. We're not in any restricted environment, things like that. So running as bash or sh. So right away, immediately we'll see we are in the web directory. So we'll have a look around and see what things we can find. As we already know, don't have write access here, so I'll go and see what's in home usually. As you go in here, we can see we've got different users. So as you can see, this sort of thing here, I'm already thinking of like a lateral privilege escalation. So I'm going to go, I'll also check my sudo, as this machine's not been set up. So we can see this most likely is not going to be a way forward for this account or maybe another, but we'll keep that in mind because we're not just going to chin it off, we'll keep trying it. So what we'll do instead is we will actually get limpies over. So we'll start up our web server, press Linux, I've forgotten my IP address already, ifconfig. There we go, start that. This is where I keep all my privilege escalation scripts in a nice neat area. And we'll get limpies over. And this runs pretty quick, so I'm not too worried about doing other things while this runs, but obviously keep an eye on the output. And we'll discuss a few things that caught my eye. So right away we can see a few orange things. They'll always catch your eye. Again, good thing to note with these is some of them are just going to be false positive like this here. It don't really mean anything. So there's no way forward with that present directory there. I don't really know. It's probably thinking there's some sort of in the current directory maybe. I'm not entirely sure why it's highlighted that. Probably it's non-default. So go through, skim through. Nothing's really catching my eye too much on the kernel exploits, things like that. Not so much here. Processes, we'll have a quick look. So see if there's passwords, things like that in here. And as you can see, it all looks pretty. There's nothing that's really catching my eye out in here. No cron jobs that we can see. We'll check etc in cron folder as well. Manually check it just to be sure in case we don't trust that. We'll have a quick look. Again, nothing too major. We're seeing PHP is running, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe SUID, things like that. Just keeping that back in mind. But obviously, that is this script will tell us. Now, this is where it starts to get a bit interesting. We see on this machine that there is a non-exposed port, that being port 25. So there is mail going to be around. So that's already got me thinking about the mail directories. It just so happens that Limpy's is also going to highlight that to us. So if we just scroll down, we'll find it here. Again, this is a little bit of a false positive. So this is normally, if you ever see something like this, it's normally a good thing. But there is no way forward with this for whatever reason. Even though it has got the SUID bit set, it loses it when you try and execute it, at least in my case. So there's no way forward with this. But if we keep going down, it'll highlight some interesting folders to us, and we can see that there is some just little things there if we just keep reading. That we do have some mail present, and whenever this is the case on a machine, it's always worth checking out. So we'll do exactly that now, and we will have a look. Oh, so we can see that we've got Jim and we have ourselves. So I'll always see if I can read someone else's mail. Cannot, but we do have our own to read. So as you can see, if we go to the top, it's some sort of email that's failed to be delivered, and it's telling us that there's a root incorrect password attempt. So although we're not getting any information from this, this does tell us that the mail system is being used, which is a good thing for us. So it's worth keeping that in mind for later. So we don't want to ignore the Limpy's output, so we will go back to what we saw earlier, and we can see that inside the Jim directory we do have a file that we have write access over. So we'll go check that out now. We'll have a quick look, see what's in here. As you can see, we've got a flag in here. We have a backups folder, always good to check out. Our bash stuff, again, check it out, see if there's any passwords or sensitive data in there. We'll look at the script to see what it's doing, and just see what the script's doing. Again, we can run this, but we're not going to get anything if we run this in our own context. It won't run as a Jim user. But as you can see, it does have its SUID bit set for some weird reason. Yeah, I think this might be the case, just to highlight this to users a bit more. I'm not entirely sure, because obviously when you try and run the script, it'll lose its SUID bit for whatever reason. But if we go inside the backups folder, which we can read, we can see that there is an old passwords file on here. So if we have a quick read, we'll go through it, and it's a fairly small word list. There's nothing really big about it. As you can already think, fresh in our mind, we've just used Hydra to brute force an admin panel, and right away I can remember that there's an SSH port open on this machine. So this has got me thinking, maybe we can brute force SSH. So that's the exact thing that I'm going to do now, while I also go looking around the machine. I'm going to put this on the back burner and just let it run and see if we get any hits from it. So before I run this, what I've done is I've created a users list, and from the old passwords list, I've just created that in its own little folder called gym.txt. I'm going to be brute forcing the SSH protocol. I'm going to run it on 4 threads in parallel, so it'll be a little bit faster for the 4 users that we're going to use. So if we look inside our home, we can see there's 3 users on the machine, and we also have the root user as well. It gives us 4 users. So we'll let this run, and we'll see if we get anything from it. So as you can see, we've got a hit on our user Jim. So we'll try and SSH in with his password, and there we go. We're in as Jim. Really quick, try the old faithful. We still can't sudo or anything like that. But if you remember, we did have some mail from earlier, so we will go and check that out now. Oh, here we go. So, as you can see, Jim's received an email. Hi Jim, I'm heading off to holidays at the end of today, so the boss asked me to give you my password just in case anything goes wrong. And this is from Charles, who we know we have a user of on this machine. So all we'll do is just switch user, and we are now Charles. Old faithful once again, and finally now it pays off. So the utility that we've got, T, this is a Linux utility called T, and this basically I think allows you to it can allow you to write to files essentially. So we're going to use this to edit the password file and generate us a new user. So now all we're going to do is going to be inserting the new user test with the password 123 hashed above into the etc password file. So now if we view this at the bottom of the file, we should have a new user, and we do. I'm going to, as you can see, the new user we've added is now part of the root group, and it's a root user. So we're going to switch, and we're going to use the password 123, and as you can see, we are now root, and we now root. So we have pwned the machine. Nice little box. Really quick, I'll show you where I got this privilege escalation from. So T privilege escalation. We should find it. Here we go on exploit notes. This is where I got this exploit from for this utility. As you can see, the utility is called T on here. It's just a bit of guessing. Obviously, you can use the utility and see that it does a similar thing to T, so they just renamed the utility there. And all that is happening is we're creating a new password and then adding it to the etc password file. Key thing to note: you have to generate the password on the machine, otherwise this will not be able to authenticate. Again, it might use a different. Well, every single system is different, so it's gonna change, and your system won't be able to authenticate with the hash that's been generated. So that those commands do need to be issued in order on the machine. So generate the password and then add that password to the etc password file. You probably could do it. So if you didn't need a password, I think I tried that initially and it didn't actually work. But so in this case, just resort to doing this, and this has worked. But yeah, another pretty nice box. Thank you for watching.